Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by on this lovely Thursday. Next to me, I have Elena, who is co-founder and CFO of Defy Trends, Sharon, founder at TheCryptoMediaGroup, Laura, founder and host at the Miami 8th, and Shannon, COO at World of Women. Let's give these ladies a round of applause. Cool. To get a sense of who you are before you get to know these wonderful women, raise your hand if you've heard of Web3 or blockchain. Amazing. How many of you have heard of Chainlink specifically? And how many of you are actively building in Web3? And keep your hands up and look around the room because you can talk to those people, get to know each other a little better. Amazing. So to kick things off, ladies, what inspired you to enter the Web3 world full time in your respective careers? Elena, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. As you said, I'm Elena. And for me, my background is in traditional finance. So I was working at a big bank in New York, so excited right out of college, and eventually got pretty quickly disillusioned with the traditional financial system, the way money works, the way that different people can or cannot participate. And when I started learning about crypto and DeFi a little bit later, I started trading and it became my evening job, but definitely was very much agreeing with the ethos of decentralization and peer-to-peer. And then when I met the founder of Defy Trends, which is the company that I co-founded, she had built a tool for investment, for data for investments. And I started using it and it just clicked. It was the right fit from all different perspectives and I've never looked back.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I got into the crypto blockchain space almost 10 years ago. I started in the payments industry, and there was a huge need for faster, cheaper, more efficient ways to transfer money globally. We were using Bitcoin at the time, and then I ended up getting licensed, opened my own exchange. Today I'm licensed in 2 countries in the world, developed payment solutions and systems that integrate, whether it be stablecoin payments, on-ramps and off-ramps for crypto payments, and then started bringing over a lot of that technology to the States. And tokenization, everything NFT, Web3 kind of started happening the past 2 years, basically. And we're just kind of rolling with the industry, continuing to grow, advise, consult, and build in the space.
It sounds like once you dip your toe, it snowballs.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, you know? You just kind of dip your toes into everything, you know? It's like, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And in comparison to a lot of other industries, I think, you know, everybody, especially I'm sure you guys as well, because you guys are building in the space, you know that it's different. The vibe is different. The people that you meet, like everybody really wants to build something sustainable, you know, make significant change, whether it's in the world or in our lives or in the financial system.
And my swag tee collection grows more and more. So I like that project and I like this
Can
project.
someone make bikinis, please? Like that's what I want. Like I want a bikini with like my MetaMask on the butt. You know, people can just like that. That'll be the new like dating thing, right?
Very
Anyone
Miami.
Pickup.
works in fashion, just let us know. You want to kick this
Right
off?
notes, yeah. Yeah.
Laura.
Hi, everybody. My name is Laura. I'm really happy to be here today. What really got me into the space, I think I'm like the one with the non-traditional path. I never thought this would be a thing, if you asked me before. But my background, I have a master's in social work, and I jumped into the space just very curious to learn what the technology was. Like, I had no idea how could this apply to me. Like, this has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm not in this world. And little by little, what I discovered through having a voice in the community is that this really could impact everyone, right? And that we could truly, through having decentralization, affect everyone globally. So I started to learn more. I started to find ways that we could make a social impact. And little by little, I realized that my time was better spent by not only educating, but getting to know people and creating a platform where I am introducing the builders of Web3 and giving them a voice, being that in English or in Spanish, and really sharing that has, it just became like my passion, and it kind of snowballed into just creating my own company and saying, you know what, I need to go ahead in first, because if this is just getting started and I'm here and I'm passionate and driven, I think that there's going to be, all the right tools in order to continue to grow in the space. So I just went for it. I'm like, I think that this is like the moral of the story. Like, do it with fear, do it with fear, do it powerless, and just go for it. And let's see where it takes you. And so far, so good.
If anyone has ever built a product, which is most of you in the room, you know that you need help, like a lot of help, a lot of Googling help, but also tools in order to get you from point A to point B. So Shannon, next to you.
Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm the COO of World of Women, which is the world's largest mission-driven NFT brand. But I just joined 6 weeks ago full-time to that company. Previously, I was working full-time in tech. I spent over 10 years at Google, and then most recently was heading the entertainment division at Meta. So while being crypto curious for a long time, I had a moment of realization, and it was really around passion, to your point. I had a week where my team signed the largest deal in Meta history. But that same week, World of Women, which was a project that I had been a holder for and of for a long time and is all about increasing representation and inclusion in Web3, they launched World of Women Galaxy, which is our second collection. And I realized I was more excited about World of Women Galaxy launching than I was about signing the biggest deal in Meta history. So I was like, I need to follow my passion. I need to spend time on this. And I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to now work on it full time.
Amazing. Well, on the topic of equality, whether it's for enterprise, DeFi, NFTs, or DAOs, the Web3 industry continues to create new avenues of fairness and equality for all. So, Shannon, starting with you, what are some of your favorite tools, resources, dApps that you use?
So I would say it's always learning journey. I love that you're asking about tools, because we just set a goal for second half that we actually want to transition to becoming a data-driven company. And I would say we have a long way to go. Ultimately, we're trying to get more and more data about everything that we do, and so that we can more adeptly serve our customers, serve our users, and hopefully have inclusion. So one that I'm playing with, a lot of our tools are a little bit more Web 2.5 than Web 3.0. NFT Inspect is a tool that I just discovered that helps you look into your collection and see who are the users that are actually using your NFT as a profile pic. So you can actually see not just who owns your NFT, but who feels strongly enough that they are using it as a brand identity, which I think is a little bit more like, what is my NPS score? Who actually wants to put themselves out there and say, this is my identity? So I'm excited for more tools to come along that help us get more data and do a better job.
Laura, what are some of your favorite tools, dApps, resources?
So I think that tools have a long way to go, and I think they're being built. A tool that I think that could be oversight is like Uniswap, right? Like having access to a decentralized platform where we could just go ahead and like change tokens. It's something that perhaps like we take for granted, but if you're in a different country where this might be the only way, I think it has become such a priority. So definitely that. And then I would also say that having audio conversations via Twitter Spaces, even though it's not a tool, right, it has become the tool in order to build relationships, in order to build the communities that we're talking on a daily basis about this Web3. So I think those would be the two.
Connecting with each other is the best tool there is. Sharon.
I mean, there's a lot in my kind of line of work. I would say Nansen is a company that I really, really like. Elliptic is a company that I like as well. I think it's important to do your due diligence, your KYC, check for blacklisted wallets, something that a lot of KYC providers don't check for, unfortunately. And a lot of the companies that I work within and kind of help build up to be able to create tools for what's basically coming. I think for mass adoption, so onboarding a lot of the users, and that could be if it's KYC, right, and how that's being done, and per jurisdiction, what that means and what you can and can't do. Like, for example, I didn't know that, in the US, you can't, verify somebody by doing a video. It goes against privacy policy. So even things that a lot of people don't think about, or again, what can I pay with, right? How does that connect with my current financial options, the banks that I use, the credit card options that I have, or debit card options that I have, paying your rent, right? Or maybe you have crypto and you want to get a loan against that. So there's a lot of different companies that I work with that are providing these tools, and we'll be seeing that towards the end of the year. And I think beginning of 2023, really changing the industry. So yeah, that would be my tools. And of course, DeFi Trends too, right?
Elena.
Yes. Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah, I mean, we have to, right?
I definitely do want to build on what you were saying, because I think that to the point of inclusion and more diversity, a lot of groups that aren't participating so much right now or haven't had the opportunity to in the space also are more economically unstable maybe, and really have even a higher need to do their due diligence, to have tools that can teach them how to understand the risks and rewards associated with a certain investment, whether it's staking, whether it's trading. And so those are the tools that I really love. I also love data. So of course, DeFi Trends, but on the DeFi side as well, I've been using this website called Bad Debt Risk DAO. That's what it was. And this has been very useful for me, especially now in the crisis that we've been seeing with Lunar and Anchor and Celsius imploding. It's a tool that shows you for the decentralized protocols how much percent of their debt is bad debt from insolvent accounts. And of course, that only works with decentralized protocols because centralized don't have the information on the blockchain. But that's been really useful. And then associating that risk to the reward that you can find with tools like staking rewards, etc. And a really great resource on Twitter that I love is the DeFi Edge. This guy who I've been following for a few years now, really, really great Twitter threads, tutorials, explanations. So those are some of the tools I think we need for financial empowerment.
Is someone writing these down? Because I want the list after. Thank you, Jackson. I know I could count on you.
Yeah.
Speaking of tools and being able to use resources that enable you to interact with these blockchain Web3 products, there's a lot of friction involved. You have to open up a wallet. Well, what is a wallet? What is a public key? Because you should know what that is. What is a private key? Keep your private key safe. What is a seed phrase? You want to buy an NFT and they don't have checkout with credit card. You have to buy crypto and an exchange, and then you have to wait 3 to 5 business days in order to transfer that crypto out. And then you have to transfer that crypto into a burner wallet. And then you go and connect the burner wallet to the project site, and then you get your NFT. Yay. But then if you want... It's not easy. I've given up on a lot of projects because of that friction. Even if I get an NFT and they want me to communicate with the project, I have to then go on Discord. And then I have to verify on Discord and connect my wallet and validate. And do you see where I'm getting at? So there's a huge user experience, user interface problem. Just doing something simple as buying an NFT, or it's not conducive. And if we want to talk about mass adoption, it's people are not going to go through the hassle. Like Amazon one-click buy is a thing because nobody's going to put in their card every single time. So how do you view this user experience issue, and how could it be better? And secondly, when you tell people about Web3, how do you kind of pad the UX experience to not scare them off real quickly? Elena, we'll start with you.
Sure. I think this is a pretty big topic in mass adoption, and one that we focus a lot of time on also at Defy Trends, being simplified and actionable and fun to use product, even though it's about data, which a lot of people don't find that sexy. But I think there's two parts the way I think about it. One of them being the more behavioral change, because the great thing about Web3 is that you have the power to have custody of your own assets, transact peer-to-peer, invest without an intermediary in financial products that you would never have the chance to without a bank otherwise. But as I think Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that part is kind of still missing with a lot of people, that responsibility of all those terms that you mentioned that are a whole glossary. How do you take care of your private keys? How do you do your own research and make sure that you don't get scammed or just over leverage? Well, you shouldn't maybe leverage, but take on too much risk. And so I think the education around that and the behavioral change that you need to understand when you move from Web 2 to Web 3 is big. And then, yes, just working on also the tech. The underlying tech is still pretty nascent. And so a lot of the bridging can be clunky, or a lot of the multiple steps involved in a process. And I think as that evolves, and at the same time, we also work on UX, the two will merge, and hopefully the user experience will eventually get to the one-click. Although, anyway.
I want one-click NFTs. That's all I ask. Sharon.
That's actually something that almost all of my companies specialize in. And that's something that's really important for me in my own companies and in companies that I advise for. I think it's all about end user experience. And that could be, as simple as the colors that you use, or as your opening line, or how long it takes them to get to, signing on, the customer support that you give for your product, the education. That's something that I realize that's huge in the space. How to educate people on your product, how you're doing that, how that ties in with marketing, business development, strategy, who your target audience is, understanding regulation. Like if you're in Singapore, for example, maybe you can't advertise your product. That's on the basic level. So I think there's a lot of things that go into, an end user experience. I think at the end of the day, what a lot of people are realizing, and especially, after what you were saying, is that for there to be mass adoption, it needs to be seamless. Like I always say this, like no one cares about blockchain, right? Like no one really wants to understand. No, but that's the truth. Like,
no, I agree.
And like, I'm not talking about the people in this room that but I'm saying like, for the people who don't understand, right? The people who don't understand technology, like think about your grandma, okay? Like my grandma has Facebook, she has Instagram, you know what I mean? She doesn't try to understand how the app works. She just knows, like I snap a picture, I upload it, right? She doesn't care about the technology, as amazing as it may be. And I think that that's what we need to understand, is that for there to be mass adoption, it goes hand in hand with end user experience. And the easier you make it to onboard, then that's how we're going to have mass adoption. The number one thing that I always get asked is, hey, can you help me open an account in X? And it's literally simple KYC, which is putting your driver's license, putting, your address, simple things that you probably do on a regular basis when you open an Instagram account or when you open, I don't know, whatever it may be. But people are just so scared because it's something new and it's a new technology. So again, everything has to go hand in hand. It has to be education. It has to be marketing. It has to be, the user flow, and again, not make it complicated with the technology. As we can have the decentralized stuff, we can have the centralized stuff, and they can all live happily together. And when we move forward and we have a space for everybody, I think that's when we'll see the change. And just like in regular finance, you have people who understand more and they dip their toes in certain things and certain investments, and you have people who, are more conservative with that. So I think that applies to the Web3 crypto blockchain space as well.
For sure. And I always find it funny, and this is where I get spicy. So I find it funny that people get in a car and they trust the car to get them from point A to point B. But not everyone knows how a combustion engine works. And you're not going to Google combustion engines. Or you put your money in a bank account and you do not know the ins and outs of how a bank account works. But when it comes to blockchain, whoa, I need to know everything. I don't know, I can't trust this. What is this? But okay, paycheck, direct deposit, right there. And then I'm going to swipe the card. So spicy moment over. And Laura, over to you.
I'm ready. I think that's the first thing, right? For people to really understand that, we don't have to be experts at everything. And it's so scary and intimidating to have a conversation about anything that has to do with Web3 if you don't feel like you're an expert, if you don't feel like I could go and know about each and every detail. And the reality is that you don't have to. So for me, one of the things that I've always give as an example is if I don't know how old the crowd is, but if you remember dial-up internet where people used to call you and then there's no more internet and you're oh, answer the phone, I was doing something. So it's the same thing. With any new, I don't know if that was a good example, but hopefully, I think with any new emerging technology, we're going to be at this, infancy stage for a little while, and we have to be patient with it. So education, right? And we throw that word day in and day out, but what does education look like? I think it's educating people around you, but also try to look for people that look different like you, right? Create opportunities, create a seat at the table, create ways that what is in my hands is okay, I could host, I don't know, Twitter spaces in English and Spanish. Well, what is that bringing? That is bringing different people to the table. So long story short, what I think is, yes, we need to start with education. We need to think, how do we make this in everybody else's language? It doesn't just have to be in the English language. Then the security aspect of it, that's huge. I'm telling all these people, hey, come on board. It's so exciting, NFTs. And then all you see in the news is someone connected their wallet, they lost $1 million. And then all I get is DMs. Hey, what happened? I'm I don't know what to tell you. It's someone stole it. Can they steal mine? I'm I don't know. Do you click a random link? I don't know. I open a Google ad. I'm no, that's not what I mean. But but I think that little by little, it's okay, the security has to get better. And if we want mass adoption, besides being easy to utilize, I think it has to be also affordable. I don't think with the transaction fees, if we have to pay $100 every single time that we're going to buy an NFT, that's the reality for everyone else. It's not. I think we get really used to being in here and saying oh, whatever, gas was cheap. It was $70. And it's what is $70 for a lot of people, right? And even for yourself. I think at the beginning I was what? I'm not paying that. And then you stay in the, buying NFTs for a while and it's oh, gas is cheap. It was only $55. And I'm so I think making gas and transactions more affordable, education, and making it a more global thing if we want to make this mass adoption globally, and security.
And I think to the point, we've heard so many examples of everything that's broken. Knowing that this is a room of builders, I think the good news is that all of those points of friction are business opportunities. So many problems to be solved, and that's where businesses are made, making things easier for consumers. So I see that a lot. We were having a conversation before this panel started about how horrible the communication tools are. Kashfi, who is World of Women's Discord manager, spoke with 100 women at VCon who said that they feel super scared of Discord and they're just not going to go in it because it makes them feel uncomfortable. While we're not shutting down the World of Women Discord anytime soon, I will say if someone comes up with a better tool where my community feels safer, feels comfortable, wants to connect, I definitely would want to add that to the slate. So I put that challenge out to the community to keep building something better.
Sounds like functionality first and then user experience. Like get the thing working and then make it a better experience for everyone. And that's where we'll see more users come on board. But switching gears a little bit, we just had a wild bull run and we're entering into a bear market. So what are some lessons that you've learned in the bull run? Shannon, starting with you.
I would say my biggest takeaway of this market is the same takeaway as your own community. Your true friends are the ones that stand by you even when things are bad. And so I think entering into this market, seeing who chooses to stay and build are the people we want to be there anyway. So that's my position, is just head down, keep positive, focus on the mission, and know that the people who are still here are the ones who are here for the right reasons.
Laura?
Copy paste. Okay, just kidding. But that was a great point, and I think you took the words out of my mouth. I think that really seeing who's still motivated and perhaps not even motivated. You could be non-motivated and you could still get up every day and work because you believe in the space and you think that the technology hasn't changed and the opportunities haven't changed, even if you are hurting bad. So I think like acknowledging that we are going, in this market where, things are not looking the best way, but at the end of the day, that whatever NFTs you bought or whatever the price of like Bitcoin or Ethereum is at the moment shouldn't change your long-term vision. So I think to like zoom out, really remind yourself and be surrounded by the community of people that are going to support you and that understand that, hey, you know what, like even this was about to happen and this could happen. Like right now we go all the way up and then we could go all the way down. So it's like, are you going to really just stop and leave it at that? So that would be my addition.
Without revealing the status of your portfolio, what lessons have you learned?
Your risk, appetite, and do your own research. Top 2 things that I could say. Everybody invests differently. And I think, you guys hear me? Sorry. I think it's important to not compare other people. Thanks. I've been supporting women, right? And to understand that, a lot of this was also hype. I think I can say this since, I know we're a diverse room, but we're a panel of women. Like a lot of that crypto bro energy, like kind of was misleading to a lot of people. Sorry.
It did not lead me to wealth, for sure.
Yeah. And then obviously, I'm like a full-on hodler. So, I got in early. So for me, it's something that, I just take with a grain of salt. And every day I wake up and I look at my portfolio and I'm like, all right, today's a new day, but I got it early. But that's my own risk appetite. And again, I always tell people to do their own research. And yes, I think it's the same in finance. Like when you're going to invest in a company, right? How do you connect with that? Maybe some people trade more emotionally and maybe, that's the way that they do it. Or maybe, I don't know, every single person has a different investing strategy. Every single person can invest, a certain amount. And again, everybody does their own research. So this is no different. And don't follow just some trend. And yeah, that's what
Good advice.
Yeah.
Risk averse.
Yeah.
Be conservative.
You don't have to be, listen, whatever you can, that's what you will put. Don't compare yourself to somebody else and learn and educate yourself. Like there are a lot of tools, like DeFi Trends, for example, that you could take a look at all the data. You can see what's going on in the market. You can decide and you can make, better decisions and start small, but at least start. A lot of people don't even start or they haven't started. And even when the first, what all this? Like the entire NFT craze, right? Even if you weren't, buying something that was like the top NFT, but you found out which wallet you wanted to, use and open, and you went through the process, or you created an account on OpenSea, or you uploaded maybe a collection. Like, dip your toes in some things, see how you feel about it, see how you connect to it. And again, remember what your risk appetite is, and yeah, go with the flow.
Words of wisdom. Elena.
I don't know if there's much to add here. Definitely agree on both. The survivors will be the ones who really want to make changes, and super always a big advocate for good trading habits, good investing habits, and everything like that. But I think just to kind of top it off, one thing that was exciting about the bull market is that it proved the hypothesis that there is appetite for this. People do want a new system. People do want to experiment with new technology and get involved in these communities. So now, as we've talked before, we just need to make it a better experience. We need to make it safer. We do need a little bit of regulation. And then we can hopefully really take off much more sustainably in the next bull run.
Speaking of taking off and doing your own research, I know you all are hungry for news, and you're in crypto Twitter, and you talk to people, and you read newsletters. Some newsletters go unread until weeks later, but read nonetheless. So with all the knowledge that you've gathered, what do you see as the next massive potential coming up in crypto and Web3 in general? Elena?
Where to start? Well, everyone's talking about scaling solutions now, but I think that what I would love to talk about is, first of all, how we can use all this transparent data that we now have to actually make better business decisions, make better investment decisions. That's one thing I'm super excited about. But then also tools that people can actually use that improve their lives. So I'm really following messaging, so decentralized messaging platforms, peer-to-peer money transfers, which comes also with privacy. So Zcash, for example, is something that I've been reading into a lot lately. Basically, tools that people can actually use in their day-to-day life that solve a problem that actually exists. And I think those are not often talked about so much, maybe, but just because of their nature will be very widely adopted.
Sharon?
I'm really big on cybersecurity. I'm Israeli. And that's kind of like our specialty, right? But it's true, and I work with a lot of companies that are offering these services now, and they're taking a look, at your lines of code and where you can be hacked. And I mean, today you don't think as a company like, where could I possibly be hacked from? And all of these hacks that we're seeing, right, and all these funds that are being stolen, that could have been prevented. And these are companies that they have enough money to have, either a third-party provider do something like this or have an internal team, and they just didn't do that. And it's a shame, and it kind of made a bad reputation for our industry in a way. And this is probably the number one thing that I say and I advise on, especially if you are building in the space. Take a look at who you can partner with, who can offer those services for you. And if you guys do need something like that, then I have like 5 different companies just off the top of my head, that I can connect you with. And they're really open to working together and helping no matter what your budget is. I think that we need to keep that in mind. I think that safety, especially with emerging tech, should be a priority. So that's something that I see. And then, I'm like a regulation junkie. So I think that that's something that also people should be aware of, because a lot of people are building in the space, and then it's like, oh, well, here's this new regulation. So then they get, they have to stop either what they're building, or it kind of changes some plans. So I think those are the top 2 things that you need to keep in mind: safety and regulation.
I would fully support you if you started tweeting at the White House, just like, drop a nugget. Like, here's some good regulation practices. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the U.S. is heading into everything, like trying to push forward a CBDC. So you know. But we're starting to see some changes. We'll see what happens in these new elections. I think politics heavily affects our industry as well. You know, it is what it is.
Thank you, Laura.
I think one of the biggest things that we haven't seen just yet in full force is gaming, and there has been a lot of pushback from the gaming community. But I truly believe that little by little, they're gonna adopt Web3, and once that happens, I just think they're gonna be like the biggest thing, because they've been using skins for so long. They've been using like their own currencies for the longest time that me personally, I thought, oh, you had to be a gamer to be in Web3, like when I started. And for it not to be here right now in full force, I just think that that's where the future has to go, because we're social beings and we want to be in this metaverse, or we want to be in these games, but like what happens, like, do we really own the skins? Do we really own the currency that we have there? So once that transfers to Web3, I think there's going to be really a boom.
Thank you, Shannon.
And I'll just end on a fun one, because I think a lot of the major ones have been covered. In the NFT world, there's been so much talk about utility, token-gated content, token-gated physical experiences. But what I'm seeing a lot of joy in right now is storytelling and lore. If we look at what 10KTF is doing with their community and getting really into storytelling, it just shows that people want to have fun. They want to have joy in some of these communities that they join. World of Women has been experimenting a lot more with taking some of the lore that our users create and then also building it into a storyline for those who are holders. We recently did an airdrop, and there was a whole storyline around a villain has captured it. We have to work together to get it back. Now there's going to be real-time decisions of, are you going to use the capacitor in a certain way, which I can't reveal yet. But I think it's all about bringing interactivity into the storytelling, bringing our community, which often is globally dispersed and can only really be together in digital ways, activating them against some real-time storytelling, having them have fun, and really getting some joy out of the experience.
Amazing. Thank you. All right. One more question for all of you, and then you guys can get back to drinks. I know you're running dry because I hear less laughs. There we go. How do we focus on projects that have true utility? It's not just a pretty picture. It goes beyond what it looks like on the surface level, or products with some really good use cases. How do you find them, and how can companies focus on solving real problems better? Shannon?
Well, I think just listening to your community. Your community will tell you what type of utility they want, what type of experiences they want. Whenever I've come into a job, it's always been first thing, talk to your employees. They'll tell you what problems are there, what needs to happen, and then talk to your customers, and they'll tell you what their needs are. So I think a little bit back to basics of really listening to the users, and they'll tell you what utility they need and what they're going to find value in.
Thank you, Laura.
I think it's really about finding what is it that you want to get out of the space, right? And that might look very different for each and every individual. And I think it goes to what you're saying, right? Like, if I'm joining your community, why? Like, what am I doing this? And put a little bit of the responsibility in the people buying the projects, right? People buying into the NFTs, because a lot of times people get driven by the hype and the excitement of the moment. And it's like, oh my God, everyone is buying it. I don't want to have the same PFP. And then when the hype dies, which always dies, then it's all of a sudden, it's like, wait, what are they doing? I'm not happy. And it's like, they never promise you anything. So I think it's going to be a lot of accountability in each individual to do the research beforehand, to really understand, are you buying just art? And are you okay with that? And if you are, then great. Or are you really looking for an IRL utility, right? Are they in your area? Are they building an event in Miami, or are they based in Europe and you can't attend the event? And then, so I think it's a lot of not falling so much for the trend or for what your friend is doing. And I mean, you could invest your money in whatever you want, but if we want to be happier customers, then we need to be educated customers.
Thank you.
I actually take a different approach than most people have. And this is something that I advise always with the projects that I'm affiliated with. To first build your community and then drop your NFT and try to make money off of that. I think that when you have a good base, and then, going off of what you guys were saying, and that you listen to what they want, maybe they'll connect initially for whatever reason that may be. I don't know, maybe it's a dad bods group, or maybe it's a women's group, or maybe it's a, I don't know, kitty cat club, whatever, whatever it is that you guys are initially getting into. But I think, the user base is going to be more involved if he doesn't have to put down money, to buy something, and he's really going to build something, and they see that people are listening to them, and they see what they need, and they're building, and everybody's kind of building together. And then when the project is like really solidified, then go to market with that. And you'll have, your user base, and you'll have that organic marketing. And I think that that's something that we need to keep in mind. Not just in NFTs, but in every project, really, in the space. So
I can totally relate. What we're doing in my company, Niantic, is we're getting a community together to build in public. We can sit around a whiteboard all day long thinking about how we're going to build fun experiences, how we're going to bring users, but that's our thoughts. There's only 5 of us on the team. What if we could get hundreds of people's thoughts? Like, tell us what you want. Tell us what is cool. Tell us what you're crazy about. And then we're going to build for that. Because this product is for you. It's not for us. I can build something for myself, but that's kind of lonely because I want to do something really cool with all of you. So #build in public is the new motto for us, at least. And lastly, Elena?
I love that. And I think what's been echoed here about listening to the needs is the center of this. So really looking at what problem does this project solve. So maybe some of them in the NFT space as well, but also in crypto more broadly. Do you feel like there's a pain point either in your life or in the ecosystem as a whole that's being addressed through this project? And if you're not an engineer and you don't know, then look what the engineers are doing. So there's different analytics that can show you how many people are building on a new layer 1 or utilizing a new project. I love talking to engineers about what they're most excited about, because I'm not an engineer myself, and that's a really enriching perspective, I think, in a technology focused industry. So that's what I would add here. Those are the projects that I'm pretty bullish on.
And the engineers will tell you all the details, even the ones that you don't want to know. But we like to keep them around. So that's it for my questions. And I'd like to open it up to all of you. If you have any questions for anyone here, please don't be shy and ask away.
Hello, my name is Aaron. I'm with the Atlas Corp here based at the lab. I have a question trying to hire more people in this industry. Do you have a recommendation on the best places to find women to work in this industry? Because we've had difficulty, getting people to apply for jobs that are, women. Usually it's questions coming from men, and men are the ones applying for the jobs.
I mean, I'd be happy to help you with that. I work with a lot of different projects that basically the end goal is to make that shift between Web 2 to Web 3 for women, and that's in any industry, really. And then how to target those women. How are you saying things? How are you wording things in your job offer? What's the work environment like? Not saying anything specific to your company, but just in general, right? And also, I mean, treating us as equal. I am on a panel that's specifically for women, but a lot of the times when I'm invited to speak at an event and then they have like only a panel that's just for women, like, no, it should just be organically integrated. We are same as you guys, there really is no difference. Obviously, I still believe that, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, whatever they say, and our brains work a little bit differently. So yeah, you do have to kind of, channel things maybe a little bit differently. But I haven't seen an issue with that. If you do need help with hiring more women, speak to me after, and I'll definitely get you the right fit.
not speaking for my company, but they have a wellness benefit where massages qualify for. So if you just throw that in the headliner, you might catch some.
Are you hiring?
Thank you very much. Hi, how are you? Thanks for hosting this event. Solution Silvio here with Logos Capital. I have a question in regards to interoperation and community development, particularly with Chainlink in the conversation. How do you think that the future of NFT development might help in terms of garnering different communities? So if you code towards Chainlink, you could also maybe attract the ERC20 community, the Algorand community, Polygon, whomever, right? Could you talk a little bit about, me personally, I'd rather be with communities that are more sustainable, and when they think about their architecture, that's sort of like litmus test number one. Either you're like technically competent, number one, in the leadership, and number two, you care enough that you're competent enough and technically competent enough to say we want to be able to have something that's optimized. Is there some conversations around existing communities? Like I know World of Women is one important one. Miami Ape is another important community with the ape communities in general. We have, of course, the Tuttle Tribe, which I'm a member of here in Miami. But that's all very much ERC20. How do you see the future developments? It's like when you code to an NFT or you code to a community to be able to really attract other sub-communities from other tribes, if you will, that are in other blockchains that you might want to attract. And maybe Chainlink is a solution, not sure. Would love to think about, we have a couple of representatives of 2 or 3 different communities just on board right now, beside also the technical side. Have you had this conversation? Has it come up? And if so, what's the roadmap? When can we expect things like that to be happening? Thanks.
I love the Tuttle Tribe rep. Many of us in Tuttle Tribe, so I love it. And I would say that sustainability is something that for World of Women is very critical. We recently announced that we offset our entire carbon footprint from the historical of the project just a couple of weeks ago. And it's been a huge conversation within our community of how do we continue to build sustainably while also being on chain that we know is going to be ultimately inclusive. So we have decided to continue to build on ETH. We feel that the future of the merge is going to help with sustainability, but certainly as we continue to expand and our goal is inclusion, and I think that is going to be beyond, this iteration of the project. When we look at future projects, which have not yet been announced, I think it's all about how can we bring more people in. And I think that is definitely a larger conversation of what do we need to do to embrace an even larger community than where we are at now.
I think, that's a hard one because every single project, has their reasoning for going either with a specific, protocol one way or the other. A lot of people will say, well, I'm just going to go with, Ethereum because that's been tested the most. That's what everybody knows. It's the easiest. Everybody's kind of going with that and, with the advancements and everything that you were saying. And then there's others that are maybe going to say, well, I'm going to build on Solana because I, resonate with that more. And maybe I think that's going to get more hype. And maybe they're going to go for a marketing route, or maybe they're going to go with a blockchain that's more cost effective. So I think for every project, it's going to be individual. And I think that that's also going to affect, the user base, as you were saying. And maybe, I did buy some, NFTs because they were Solana based. And maybe I didn't because, the gas price, like you were saying, was high on a specific project. So it's a lot to think about. And I think that it's probably one of the first things that you should think about when you start your project. And then I do think that we're seeing in tokenization and in general, we're seeing a lot of companies that are kind of trying to bridge and do the cross between, how we can kind of utilize this technology. We started with NFTs, right? But let's look at tokenization as a whole and blockchain technology as a whole and what that can offer for all of the systems, right, that we have currently. And being able to work and how do we work with different chains and how how can we switch or cross over so that we can get that, mass adoption or bigger user base. So that's a huge thing. So I'm glad that you touched on that, because not a lot of people talk about it, and it's super important. So thanks for the question.
Thanks. One more question from the audience.
Hey guys, my name is Robbie. I just wanted to ask what you all thought about influencer marketing and how platforms and NFT projects have sort of leveraged hype and influencers, whether within the Web3 space or celebrities outside of the Web2 space. What do you think is the path forward from this, and what kind of standards should we set for new projects that are up and coming?
I can answer if you want. Actually, I'm not like a huge fan of that. I think you're gonna see a lot of lawsuits happening right now against all of these celebrities. There's a lot of, kind of them being paid and swayed to persuade their followers to invest in certain projects. And I think that at the end of the day, we call them NFTs, and maybe you were trying to think that you don't have to abide by all of these regulations, et cetera, but it is a financial product, or it is an investment. And I think that people need to be careful with what they're doing, with what they're promoting. If you are an influencer and you're in this room, be careful with what you promote, because it might come and bite you in the ass. We're seeing that right now. There's a lot of lawsuits coming up surrounding that. But at the same time, we're also seeing, companies like MoonPay, that they're having like this VIP concierge, right, for these celebrities or for these people who are these like elite. But again, all of these projects that have these celebrities, that are tied to them, I don't, necessarily, besides World of Women, which I think are doing a lot of great things, that this is not, and how it's expanding into, the show business industry and IP rights and et cetera, and really utilizing the technology for what it should be, and taking, celebrities and their platforms, and it's not something that it's like, hey, this is just a project that you can come and invest in, but you're actually being able to utilize the technology, and they're educating on that, and they're empowering, and it's something that it's beyond, right? And then there's the projects that it's like, oh, hey, here's a picture of a owl, and cool, like, I'm a rapper and I own that now, and I'm going to put that on my necklace. Like, you know what I mean? And then it goes to zero value. So that's kind of where I think that you need to be careful, specifically in the United States with regulation. I'm just going to keep saying this because that's the truth. And the other side, though, another positive that I do see is like tokenizing IP rights for like football players. Everything that has to do with sports, esports, I think that's huge. So where you see, I guess, influencers or celebrities being affiliated with projects like that, I think that's an advantage. And then also being able to own your content, right? How do you make revenue off of that? Everything that has to do with IP rights, tokenization. There's a lot of platforms that I work with that are basically, going to be like a completely Web3 NFT tokenization based social media platform, right? Where basically you can maybe sell your NFT as access to specific content. Or you can think about it like your OnlyFans, right? Something along those lines. Trying to keep it relevant for Gen Z, right?
Thank you so much, ladies on this panel. You've been absolutely wonderful. And you've been such a great audience. Thank you for laughing at all of my attempts of jokes. One last item. If you are looking for another event, Monday, August 1st, I'm hosting a Gaming in Web3 with Immutable X at Puro's Coffee. If you've never been to a coffee shop or an event, now's your chance. Every attendee will get an NFT, and if you present your NFT, you get 20% off your order every time you go to Puro's. So get the link from me, or just show up, search Gaming in Web3 at Meetup in order to find the event, and hope to see you all there. Thank you for coming out. Now you can grab those drinks. You're free. Bye.
Let's get a round of applause, everyone.